Right, a bright, sunny, late October Sunday morning. Around about 15 degrees today, quite nice, bit of a wind, it's supposed to rain late. So we're going to look at some palm protection for this video. And this monstrosity is actually the arid bed, but there is a palm underneath there. So this is a pretty basic form of protection you can use. Works well for keeping things dry. Real basic, this one. This literally my old polytunnel, which I cut into strips, so 4 metre by 2.5 metre strips, and used a bit of the old frame to go over just to keep it up, and then it's sort of tied on at various points to the fence, and at the front we've just got some guy ropes, if you like, using some old washing line, nice and strong. Got some clips, don't know if they're going to hold up, but they're sort of plastic clips which sort of lock on and seem pretty sturdy. I think the poly cover will rip before the clip gives out, but we'll see how it does in strong winds. It's held up pretty well so far with sort of 50-60 per hour gusts, but we'll see. Right, so the palm in question underneath here is the Brahea armata. So the idea is still plenty of airflow, but just keeping it dry and keeping that frost from dropping down into the crown and keeping the crown nice and dry. So that'll work for palms and for your succulents, cacti, agaves, that sort of thing. That should work okay as long as it doesn't get blown away. So again, just make sure it's all secured down. That might be a case of throughout the winter just keep an eye on it and retying it down if necessary. In the past I've done a bit more of a elaborate setup, and it does, you know, this literally took about an hour to put up, and you know, real quick, basic, but as long as the wind doesn't blow it away, it should hold up all right. So that is one option for your palms. I have put a couple of other sort of shelters up, so let's have a look at a bit more of a sturdy situation. So this is again quite a basic idea that does work very well. So what we've got here is just a frame at the top. This is actually acrylic. It is a frosted acrylic, but it's still clear, so it lets light in. But again, this is at an angle, and we've literally just put some sort of sturdy dahlia stakes in each corner and knocked them in at least a foot to give it a good sort of holding, and then we'll just put a little bit of cross bracing down the sides, so it's sort of nice bit of movement but sturdy. That'll hold up to any winds that we get, and that is also in quite a sheltered position anyway, so that's not going to suffer too much from wind, but that's a really good solid structure which will again just keep any moisture, sort of rainfall, out the crowns, keep them a little bit drier and stop the frosts from nipping at the leaves. So in this particular case we have got a Washingtonia. No, it looks like a Washingtonia, but it's not. It is a Livingstonia chinensis, and this did take damage last year. You can see there's a bit of spotting on the leaves, so I'd like to try and keep it looking a bit better. So, and we're sort of clustered of 4 palms here, and they're all sort of pushing out new leaves, so I'd like them to look quite nice. So we'll see how that does. Maybe on the coldest nights, if we're sort of a couple of day freeze or something, then I will put some wrap some fleece around the trunks themselves, but apart from that we'll just leave it open. I probably will tie this frond up so it is underneath the shelter, because that particular frond is sort of sticking out, so that will obviously get frosted. The reason why I've planted these two close together, because they're both quite tender palms. So we've also got the Nikko palm there as well, which again I want to keep looking quite nice, and not necessarily the hardiest palm. They'll take damage at sort of -2, -3, and you know -5 could kill them. So again, the overhead protection is going to give it a good protection from the frosts, and again we'll wrap the trunk with fleece if we get a prolonged freeze period. So last year with these Butia odoratas, I done a similar situation to this, so you can do it on a bigger scale, just, you know, taller stakes and just some sort of solid roof over them, and that seemed to work really well, obviously because they're still in good nick, no damage on them whatsoever, so that did do the job even with the -6s we had. And yeah, we had sustained no damage whatsoever, and yeah, grown away nicely this year. So you know, the palm itself probably would have survived the last winter we had, but it would have probably took a lot more damage and looked sort of rough, and you quite often get like the spotting on the leaves, the fungal spotting. But yeah, so we can see this one's looking really good, really thick solid spear coming out here, really tall one actually. And so the same goes for this other Butia. So these were both new to me last year, so I did want to protect them, and that is worth doing because I can see they are sort of pretty much perfect condition. So I'm not going to build a structure over them this year. What I am going to do is just respond to the weather. So I've got some big fleece bags I can put over the top of them in case of a long freeze period. You know, when I say long, you know, like we were getting last year, sort of 3 days to a week or so, then you can put a bag over them for that amount of time, you know, big fleece. But as soon as that warms up again, you want to take that off. You don't want the moisture building up. So when it comes to the Washingtonia robusta, so this totally defoliated last year, so everything you see is sort of new foliage, and in general it does tend to lose most of its foliage over the winter, so I am going to protect it this year. So I would say in my area it is hardy, but there's a difference between hardy and surviving and hardy and looking good, and this never looks good at the end of winter. So this year I am going to protect this by, again, we'll tie up the fronds, so just having the fronds upright rather than on that flat plane. So you're going to stop the frost settling on the leaf and damaging it, so that'll be upright, so the frost will sort of pass by it rather than sit on it. And again, fleece it on the extreme nights if we have any. So another situation here, so this was a bit more of a tricky situation because it is the pond area, but at the back of it we've got some palms that I want to protect. So rather than just straight stakes in the ground, I had to do it a little bit differently. So I mean, you can see what I've done really. I've got a couple of stakes at the back, screwed to the fence and hammered in first, obviously, a good foot, and then screwed to the fence, so that them 2 stakes there are really solid. And then we've screwed the roof at quite a sharp angle to the posts, and then at the bottom here we've just got this sort of vertical piece of wood and some more stakes, horizontal, sorry. And then again, yeah, just hammered the stakes in, screwed them all in and attached it to the horizontal wood there, just to get the angle I wanted. So basically, you know, the rain's going to fall that'll just top up the pond, no problem, and the palms are going to be kept dry, and again just a chance for the frost to avoid the frost accumulating on the leaves and possibly damaging them. So what we have got, this is what I call the American palm bed. So we've got a small sable minor that side, we've got a small needle palm the other side. At the very front we've got a saw palmetto, and then we've got a queen palm, which has been doing alright this year considering it's been pretty cool. That has gone pinnate. I don't know if you can see it on the video here. I'll try and get underneath. So yeah, they start to go pinnate. They were all solid leaves to start with, so that is growing, considering it's been quite a cool summer. But yeah, I'd like to keep that alive, obviously. So see, the beauty of this is that obviously you still get maximum airflow around the plant, and it does very slightly get a bit of greenhouse effect when the sun's out. It does warm up maybe than something out in the open. And yeah, you're fully protected from the wet and cold frosts in the crown. So we'll see how that one works out. What I won't be protecting is the Phoenix canariensis, the big one, because we know last year with -6/7 we did get damage on some of the old fronds, but as we can see, all the new fronds, which has kicked out quite a few to be fair, are all good. So even at -6 or 7, it's sort of minimal damage really, just some of the old tips of the fronds. So I won't be needing to protect that, not too concerned. Unless we've got something really stupid, then I'll probably just wrap some fleece around the trunk itself, which is going to be easier said than done because it's getting quite a wide trunk on that now. So we've got a little Chamaedorea microspadics there, which are quite hardy, but they do take damage. They are susceptible to the brown spots on the leaves and looking a bit rough. It is planted in that position due to the overhead canopy of the canariensis. But again, I think what I'll probably do is on the coldest nights just whack a fleece over that. And on the lines of Chamaedorea, so we've got the cluster of Chamaedorea radicalis, or the hardy parlour palm. So again, thank you Mike if you're watching for that. Again, this is a really shady corner in the garden during the summer, but in the winter with the sun so low, it does get a little bit of sun, so that's quite a good thing, because if you've got this is more of a shady situation palm, and in the sun in the summer it can be not necessarily the best situation for it. So it's shaded in the summer, but in the winter we get the low sun, so if we do get frosts or any cold on a sunny day, that will warm up, so you get a nice bounce back in that sort of microclimate in that corner. And again, we have got a lot of overhead protection on this, so even though to look at it here, it looks quite sort of open, but in reality we've got a big canopy of bamboo, and we've got the canariensis, and we've also got my biggest Trachycarpus in this corner as well. So there's a real dense canopy here, so that'll protect that from the frosts. So yeah, if you've got slightly less hardy palms maybe than your standards, then that's good to to look really for the best situation you can find in terms of overhead protection. But so this Chamaerops humilis, I mean, this is my favourite I've got in the garden, just because there's sort of, again, this time of year it gets a bit more sun, but in the summer it's pretty shady and you get the really big leaves, and I, you know, just quite like it. Quite like the stretch look on them. Right, so we have got the big cord lines, which again creates underneath a good microclimate. So we've got the tree fern there, which sort of stayed evergreen, even, you know, with that bad winter we had. And I have got a more of an unusual palm here. Let's get in a bit closer and have a look. And I have gone to the point of already wrapping this. This is a Oranga angleri, or sugar palm, and this is one which I struggled with because I've always sort of took it in, not indoors, but either in a greenhouse or the summer house for winter protection, and it's always been absolutely fine at cold temperatures, but it really doesn't acclimatise well to the light, you know, the sun. No matter how well you acclimatise it, always seems to take damage on the leaves, as we can see. There's sort of sunburn damage on that. So we're going to leave it. So we took the idea to plant it in the ground, and like I say, it's seen several cold winters, and that's the sun that does the damage, not the cold, bringing it out every spring. So I just got fed up with looking at damaged fronds all the time, so it's either going to survive and look better, or it's going to die. So there's the two options, but either way, these are supposed to be hardy down to about -6. But again, so we've got the overhead protection of the cord lines and the tree fern here, and I've also got, this is actually one I got from Aldi. So it is a grow bag cover, so it's really quite a narrow one, so it's quite good for a small space. So it's just sort of the dimensions of a grow bag, but quite tall. And obviously I'm going to leave the zip open all the time to let the air flow in there. And I will remove this fleece, but I just done it for demonstration purposes. So on the coldest nights I'll be wrapping the trunk as is, you know, good thick layer of fleece around the trunk. But in general, until we still haven't had any frost yet, so that will be, like I say, just for the demonstration purpose of the video, I've shown you how I do it. So it's just a big old lump of fleece and just wrapped around several times, so it's a nice thick layer, so the cold can't penetrate to the growing point of the crown of the trunk. But again, I'll be taking that off and only doing that on the coldest, prolonged cold nights, because we don't want that moisture building up around the trunk. So there's a few ideas. So personally, I know it doesn't necessarily look pretty, but for me, this is my favourite way to protect palms, particularly. Obviously it's going to work with any sort of tender, any palms or any plants in general you want to, you know, that are hardy but you want to keep looking perfect. Just a bit of overhead protection. And why I like this is, I know it's not necessarily pretty, but you can sort of knock this up in half an hour or so, and then that's done for the winter. You ain't really got to do anything else, and you can sort of forget about it, and then just take it down in spring when the worst of the frosts are done. So that is my preferred choice of protection. And again, for me, that's not really a problem, because I can't really see the back of the garden from the house. So it's not as if we're looking out onto sort of these structures and, you know, spoiling the view, because we ain't really got a view. That's all too far towards the end of the garden to worry about. So the only time I'll see him is when I walk about and have a check on things, which I do every day, because I'm just that sort of person. But just a 5-minute walk around just to see what's going on. But yeah, so you set it up once and forget about it. Like I say, just on the coolest nights you could just wrap the trunk with fleece, job's done. Again, you can upscale these, downscale, and if you've got a really small palm, it works well. Right, the important thing is to have that airflow. You don't want moisture building up and rotting out. So, you know, you could do more harm than good by protecting something you didn't, you know, where it might have stand a better chance just unprotected. Right, so that is a few ideas or a few thoughts from me on palm protection. Like I say, I'm going to be a bit more proactive this year and take it seriously when they say we're going to have a deep freeze, because in all honesty, we're right on the east coast here, and we don't tend to get cold winters. You know, we do get frosts, but we don't get anything deep cold. But that was a bit of a wake-up call last winter, so I'm going to have to be a bit more proactive. And like I say, I'd like to keep some palms that are looking nice. I'd like to keep them looking nice. Right, we'll leave it there. I hope if you have got any new palms that you're not quite sure about, and I could run through a list of what should be hardy and what shouldn't be, but again, last winter that sort of threw things out of the window when a lot of the Camerops, which I never had a problem with, we had spear pulls on, just a lot of hardy palms you'd expect to sail through winter, just had all sorts of issues. I even had a couple of the smaller Trachycarpus fortunei spear pull, and they've been out for a couple of years and they still spear pulled. They always, you know, everything's come back. But just to leave it on this one then, so this is the Camerops Volcano, and this is the only Camerops species that I found. All the others, the Cerifera, Etna Star, the standard Humulus, they all, most of them spear pulled, and they've all come back. But you know, on 90% of them they spear pulled. This is the only one that didn't. So I'm going to say this is probably the toughest, and this is sort of a mountain form, so it's really, you can hear how stiff the leaves are. Really compact, stiff leaves, really nice, sort of a whitish underside to them, and yeah, just proved to be incredibly hardy. No protection whatsoever last year, no damage whatsoever, just looking really good. Right, so know what palm you've got, know your plan, whether you want to take the gamble and not protect, or if you want to keep it looking at its best, because palm's going to take a long time to grow out, because once that leaf is damaged, that's damaged forever. So for a little bit of inconvenience, you know, setting up a shelter or fleece on the coldest nights, you know, you can enjoy that palm for the next year looking good rather than damaged fronds. Like I say, with these shelters and stuff like that, that'll work for any sort of less hardy plant. I'm not going to say that's going to stop your plant from dying, I'm just saying it's going to give it a better chance, dry and without that frost collecting on it. Right, I've gone long enough, so we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, we'll catch you on the next one.